Hello everybody, I'm Rob Hill, certified Cicerone with Total Wine and More, and I'm here in the barrel room at the Lost Abbey in San Marcos, California, talking with Tomme Arthur, Director of Brewery Operations. Tomme, what is the barrel room?
So behind us you can see there's a tremendous amount of oak barrels, and while most brewery environments are all stainless steel, oak is starting to become a very popular part of a lot of brewery repertoires. So there's about 650 barrels behind us. We also have another warehouse with about another 300 to 400 barrels in it, so we're just up over 1,000 barrels these days. Two types of barrels behind us. We've got these naughty, sort of rusted looking ones. These are our bourbon barrels. We call these our spirit barrels. Some of them are also brandy. We also have some over here, which are basically wine barrels. They're a little bit nicer looking, and those are French oak and American oak. So today, we're talking about a little bit of Angel Share. That is aged in these bourbon barrels. We also produce a version of that beer aged in brandy barrels. The premise being is that we call it the spirited gain. And a spirited gain is that flavor, that liquid that was in the barrel prior to us getting it is what we're looking to extract from the barrel. So beyond the character of the wood itself, there's also a liquid and a flavor from that spirit that we're looking to sort of meld into the beer. So we have a barley wine in the Angel Share, goes into the barrel about 12.5%, 13%, comes out a little bit over 14. Part of it's the evaporative nature of the process, and part of it's just a little bit of that spirit and that flavor gain that comes from the liquid that was previously in the barrel.
Is there any secondary fermentation taking place in there?
We don't filter any of the beer on the way into the barrel, and there's live yeast cultures that go across from the primary fermentation. Most of the fermentation does take place on the other side of the building, in the brew house, in the stainless steel, but there is a little bit of an ongoing evolution. The beer spends no less than 9 months and sometimes as much as 15 in those barrels, so we think there's just enough of a secondary fermentation going on.
How many uses do you get from a barrel?
For our purposes, we're using them one time. We found that there's a diminishing return. About 70 to 80% of the sort of the flavor that's in the barrel is taken up in about the first 3 months, and then there's an oxidation that needs to occur, and that reaction is what's actually going to soften the beer itself.
So this is called Angel Share, and this is what you've poured.
Yes, so the Angel Share actually comes to us from the whiskey world, and that is the amount of the liquid that's put in the barrel that evaporates while the liquid's aging in the barrel. So in the whiskey world, where whiskeys and scotches slumber for an enormous amount of time, the Angels take quite a bit of that liquid over time. We lose about 10% of any barrel in a 1 year time, so our Angels work pretty hard, and they're doing all right as well.
They're getting a good whiff?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm definitely getting that bourbon character.
Yep, and a little bit of some real heavy caramel notes. The beer itself has a lot of rich, dark crystal or dark caramel malts that we add into it. Beyond that, we also pick up a lot of that character from the wood itself. So the goal is to try to marry the flavors of the bourbon with the beer itself.
And you said this comes out at between 14 and 15%?
We're actually packaging this beer right around 14.5% these days. It's a challenge to package a beer with the re-fermentation at that level. Most bottle-conditioned beers don't get up above 15% because the alcohol is toxic to the yeast, and we're starting to have a really good handle as to the process. And a lot of the beers that we're producing from bourbon, we're living at about 14.5% and doing really well these days with the secondary fermentation in the bottle.
Now, a lot of people think when they pour a beer, it should have a big head of foam on it. But that's not always the case with high alcohol beers, right?
No, in fact, some of the higher alcohols actually kill some of that head retention or the foam properties. You can see today that we've got a nice layer of foam and a ring of foam going on, but this beer actually is at room temperature. And so because of that, we're able to break out a little bit of that CO2 and to develop that. If this was a cold beer, it would be a lot, it would look a lot like soy sauce almost. It would have a very dull and lifelessness about it because it's not a highly carbonated beer, but at the same time, it has enough carbonation to showcase that, at this temperature.
Well, it's absolutely phenomenal. Truly one of a kind. This is a special release or available year-round?
We produce a batch of Angel Share once a year in the bourbon format right now. We've stopped producing the brandy version, although we would really like to see it come back. It is one of the smallest case totals that we produce for what would amount to our national distribution, our full distribution. We see about 1,000 cases of this beer going out into full distribution. 375 milliliter bottle, again 14.5%, big beer. It does have a little bit of a higher price point to it because of the time and the energy that goes into producing these kinds of beers and the cost associated again with the new barrels. But this is a perfect beer for putting in your cellar. opening up on a very special occasion. And it can be enjoyed by one person or two or three, anywhere from 3 ounces all the way to the whole bottle. It makes you feel good.
It's really meant to be sipped and enjoyed and savored.
It's really not one of those things you're going to break out over the football game, and I think people start to really understand that with the the packaging as a visual cue, and then just the depth of flavor. It's a bold beer for sure.
Well, it's absolutely fantastic. Thank you for sharing some of the Angel Share.
Appreciate it.